morning, we will pay attention to debtors reconciliation, bank reconciliation today. This is more difficult than in the majority of exercises because normally you will just do the debtors reconciliation or you will just do the bank reconciliation, but they can combine this in one question. Okay, so they give you the information and they say they're registered for VAT. So in this question we have to take VAT into account, what will be done in the bank and debtors reconciliation, and what will be done in the debtors control account and in the debtors list. The debtors control at the end of the month have a balance of 14,190. So they've already done entries during the month and that was already recorded. So we will do the additional entries now. And then in the bank, the balance is 51245. So the balance is also given at the bank. Now take into account here that this is on the 1st of June. So it means no entries were recorded during the month. A lot of entries were recorded in the cash receipts and cash payments journal. So you have to transfer this figure of 7,700 to the debit side and the 8,420 to the credit side of the bank. And we will do that at the end of the month because they've done those entries during the month. So it means that we will indicate that this is our total receipts during the month. This information is taken from the cash receipts journal. And the total amount is 7,700. On the credit side, we will indicate that there was payments during the month that was recorded in the cash payments journal. And the total amount for all the payments was 8,420. Okay, then they also give us the bank balance according to the bank statement. So that is at the end of the month and we want to carry on from where the bank stopped their last entry, and according to their accounts, the bank has a credit balance at the end of the month of 57062. They can either ask you to do the bank reconciliation in one column. That means if this is a credit balance and we take this as a positive figure, then anything that will be recorded on the credit side of the bank statement, deposits will have positive effect, and entries that's recorded on the debit side will be negative. So remember, in the books of the bank, they treat us as a liability, and therefore they will say they owe us money when we deposit money. So the bank will increase on the credit side and will decrease on the debit side. We record deposits on the debit side of the bank because we take it that the bank is an asset, and the bank will in their books record deposits on the credit side. And then payments in our books will be recorded in the bank account on the credit side, and in their books it will be recorded on the debit side. So we have to start with all these totals and balances that is provided before we can do the additional entries. Okay, the bank statement for June reflected the following entries that had not been recorded in the subsidiary journals. So it was already recorded in the bank statement, not in the journals, so therefore we have to record it in our books. No entry in the bank's reconciliation because they've already recorded these entries. And the first one is interest on credit balance. Now this is an entry where you often make mistakes, so remember, in their books we get this information from the bank statement. If the interest is on the credit side in their books, it must be on the debit side of our books. So in my bank account, I will indicate that there's interest on current account. That will increase the amount of money in the bank account with 5 rand. Then cash handling fees and internet bank charges. So any expenses that we pay to the bank except interest is all added together, and the total amount that they give us here is 115. So in our books, when we make a payment, it will be on the credit side. Now you have to be very careful because they say it's 115. Bank charges is the expense that we pay. So it means that we have to split that expense and say how much of this 115 will go to the bank charges account and how much of this will go to the VAT account. So 100 rand is the expense for the business and 15 rand will be VAT that we can claim back from SARS. Okay, so in the bank we will indicate that the bank must decrease with 115 rand, but we must split it between the bank charges of 100 rand and that input of 15 rand. So every time that we have an expense or an income, except for salaries, wages and interest, we have to calculate that. Okay, direct deposit of 3,680 by OUTsurance for insurance claim for inventory stolen. So OUTsurance gave us 3,680. Included in this 3,680 is also VAT. So I have to make this split again and say how much is the money that the business will receive and how much must be paid over to SARS. So I will multiply this 3,680 with the 100 over 115. That will give me 3,200, and for the VAT output will be 480 rand. Okay, so this is money that we receive in the bank because the insurance company paid the money directly into our bank account. So I will indicate in the bank that there is an insurance claim, or you can say insurance income, to indicate it's money that you are receiving that will increase your profits with 3,200. And because we receive money, we have to pay VAT on that money to SARS, 480 rand. A stop order for 920 for the monthly rent. Okay, now we are paying rent, and it means this rent includes VAT. So I must make a split again and say how much is the rent times 100 over 115 and how much is the VAT. Okay, so I will take the 920 times 100 over 115. That will give me 800 rand, and the 15 over 115 will give me 120 rand. Okay, this is an expense that we pay, so it will be on the credit side of the bank to indicate that the expense is 800 rand, and we paid VAT on it, but because we pay expense, we can claim the VAT back from SARS, 120, so this VAT will not form part of your expense. a debit order for 598 for the monthly insurance. So now we are paying the insurance premium. That includes VAT again. So I will work out what is the 100 over 115 and the 15 over 115. And this amount is the 598 times the 100 over 115 will give me 520 Rand, and the VAT included in that amount is 78. So our expense is 520 for insurance. We pay the money, so it will be on the credit side of my bank account, 520. We also paid the VAT of 78. This VAT can be claimed back from SARS, so we will record it on the debit side of the VAT input account. Okay, a direct deposit of 3,300 in settlement of her account that she bought previously for 3,760. She paid in advance so that she could also get this money. Okay, so the 3,300 payment, there's no VAT included in that. So on the 3,300, I can just debit the bank and indicate that debtors control will be credited to decrease the account of a debtor that paid money. Okay, then for the discount, we will take the difference between the 3,300 and the 3,760, and that gives me 460 Rand. If I just subtract those two from each other, so 460 on discount, there's VAT, so I must split this amount again between the discount and the VAT. Okay, so if we take the 460 and we multiply it with 100, and divide by 115, I will work out what is the amount for the discount. Okay, the discount will not go in your bank account because the money is not received. So for this entry, I have to show that the direct deposit of 3,300, I have to record in the bank because the bank is receiving the money. Then I will credit the debtors control June the 30th, and I will indicate that the bank account was debited with the 3,300 that was received. And then I will show that discount allowed must be debited. And if we allow discount, it means that we didn't collect the VAT on that discount, so we can claim that VAT back from SARS. And when we originally paid the VAT, it was VAT output. So now I will decrease my VAT output. And this amount gave me 400 Rand and 600 Rand. So the discount allowed will be debited with 400 and VAT output will be debited with 60 Rand. So remember, on the amount that they pay, there's no VAT. But if there's discount or bad debts recovered, there will be VAT included. Okay, those were all the entries that appeared on the bank statement and not in the subsidiary journal. So we recorded this in the subsidiary journals. Then the entries appeared in the cash journals but not on the bank statement. So for these entries, we've already recorded it. They still have to record it, so it means that we have to record this in the bank reconciliation statement to indicate that the bank still have to do it in the next month. So the first one is a debit card payment of 2,500. If there's a debit card payment, it means in our books it will go on the credit side of the bank, and in their books it will go on the debit side. So I will indicate the 2,500 on the debit side. And if we have to do one column, we will say debit card payment, and the credit side is a positive figure, so it means this 2,500 will decrease the amount of money in the bank, so it will be in brackets. Okay, then deposits not yet credited by the bank, money received from a debtor 1,200, and rent for 5,750. Now this we've already recorded, so don't put this 1,200 in your bank account again. They say they already appear in the cash journals. So this must just be done in the bank reconciliation. Deposits will go in the bank on the credit side in the bank reconciliation, because in our books it goes on the debit side. So I will indicate that the outstanding deposits must be credited in the books of the bank. And the one deposit is 1,200. It will increase the amount of money in the bank, so it will be a positive figure, and 5,750. That will also be recorded on the credit side. So now I've recorded all the entries that the bank must still do. Then there's mistakes and omissions. Now when we get to mistakes and omissions, it means that it can be that the business made a mistake or left out an entry, then we have to record it in the books of the business. If the bank made a mistake, it will be recorded in the bank reconciliation. A credit invoice of 989 for tennis balls sold to Federer on 11th of June has not been accounted for. So we had sales, and that means for this sales, the debtors owe us more money. This figure includes VAT, so I must take the 989 and split it to see what is the amount excluding the VAT and what is the amount that we have to pay to SARS. So I will take the 989 times 100 over 115 and 989 times 15 over 115. So in my debtors control, I will indicate that we sold goods to the debtors. So I will debit my debtors control with the sales amount excluding the VAT, and that is 860 Rand. And then VAT output that we have to collect from the debtors on behalf of SARS will be 129. So if I take this 989 and I split it, I will see what is the sales, and if I add up these two, it must give me 989 again. Okay, this entry was to Federer and we sold to him. The total amount that he owes is 989. So in his personal account, you will not split that amount. You will just show in the debtors list that Federer owes a total amount of 989, so the debtors will owe us more money. In this entry for Bartoli, in settlement of his account of 3760 We recorded this in our debtors control, but we also have to show that this person owes 3,760 rand less. So when an entry was not recorded at all, we have to record it in our debtors control, and we have to record it in the debtors list. This Bartoli paid the money, so it means that the total debtors will decrease with the 3,760. An amount of 345 for tennis dresses sold on the 22nd of June was incorrectly recorded as 460 in the debtors journal. So if we make a mistake in the debtors journal, it means that we will transfer that incorrect amount to the person's account, and our total will also be wrong. So this entry must be recorded in the debtors control account and individual account. So we must determine what is the mistake. So take the 460 and subtract the 345 from it. So that gives me a difference of 115 rand. So we made a mistake. We showed the sales as 460. It's more than it was, so we have to decrease the debtors, and we have to split this amount. Because we showed the incorrect amount in the journal, we worked out the VAT on this higher amount. So it means that we will have to show the 115, 15 over 115, and 100 over 115 of this difference of 115 rand. Okay, so the one will be 100 rand and the VAT will be 15 rand. Okay, that is in Henen's account. We will show in the debtors list that we overcharged this person with 115, so this account must be decreased with 115 rand. And in the debtors control, we have to show that we recorded too much on the debit side, so we have to decrease it, and we will also decrease our sales with the incorrect amount of 100. And then we will also indicate that when we worked out the VAT, we worked it out on a higher amount, so it means that my VAT output can now decrease with that 15 rand. An amount of 575 for goods purchased on credit on the 25th of June was recorded on the debit side of her account in the debtors ledger. We purchased this, so it was supposed to go in the account in the creditors ledger. We recorded it on the debit side of the account of the debtor. So they don't say that we made a mistake in the journal. So there's no mistake in the debtors control. It's just in the person's account that we made a mistake. So if we recorded it in the debtors ledger on the debit side and it was not supposed to be there, it means that we must take it out on the credit side to correct the mistake. So we will decrease the debtors with 575 and show that this client owes less money. Okay, because there was no mistake in the journal, there was no mistake in the debtors control or in the VAT account. So it means that this entry, we don't have to record any VAT. We only made a mistake in the individual account, and that was for the total amount. Nadala debtor was declared insolvent on the 10th of June. He owed Wimbledon an amount of 8,050 at the time of his insolvency. The executor of his estate paid a final dividend of 30 cents in the rand. This was correctly recorded. So it means we mustn't do anything for the money that we received. it is just the bad debts that was not recorded. So we have to look and see, he owed, so they don't give us the money received. If he paid his total debt, he would pay 100%. We only received 30% of that amount, and the bad debts will then be 70%. Then it's very important to see whether they give you the debt or whether they give you the amount received. And they say he owes an amount of 8050. So the debt is 8050. So if I want to calculate the bad debts, I will take the 8050 times 70 over 100. And that gives me 5635. Now, of this 5635, we have to split and indicate that some of this will be VAT and some of will be the expense for bad debts. So I will multiply this with 100 over 115, and to calculate the VAT will be 15 over 115. Okay, so the bad debts will be 4,900 and the VAT will be 735 rand. Okay, the total amount that we are writing of as bad debt is 5635. So we will indicate that the account in the debtors ledger will decrease with a total amount of 5635. But when we go to our debtors control account, we have to split the amount and indicate how much of this is the bad debts and how much is the VAT. So I will decrease the debtors because we're not receiving the money and the debts decrease, and the bad debts is 4,900, and then the VAT output is 735. So when we originally received the money, we debited the debtors control with the total sales, and on the total sales we had to pay VAT. If we write off bad debts or we give discount, it means that we don't collect the money from SARS, and then we have to claim back that VAT from SARS because we only pay money to SARS when we actually collect it from the debtors. Then Federer felt sorry for Nadal and donated his Grand Slam money to him on the 25th of June. As a result of this, he paid the amount that was written off as bad debts. So it means now in the bank, we receive the amount of money that was written off. And the total amount that was written off was the 4,900 and the 735. So I will indicate that bad debts recovered will be credited with the 4,900, and now we have to pay the VAT to SARS again because now we're collecting the money, so VAT output will be credited with 735 rand. Okay, if we look at our debtors control account, the debit side will always be more than the credit side because a debtor is an asset, and asset always have a debit balance. So I will add up the debit side, subtract the credit side, and determine what is the balance in my debtors control account. And that balance is 5669. And you will write down your totals and bring down the balance on the debit side. In the bank, we have to show that the debit side is more than the credit side if you add it up. So it means I will add up the debit side, get a total of 71,565, and then I take this total and I subtract all the amounts on the credit side to determine what is the balance. And then this balance carried down is 61512. And in July the 1st, I will show that this balance is brought down on the debit side, 61512. So you just balance the accounts. Now remember, if you receive money and it's in connection with a debtor, you also have to correct it in the debtors control and the debtors list. Or if you pay back money to a debtor, it will be in the bank and in the debtors control. So you have to think very clearly to determine each one of these entries. Will it have an effect on the debtors? Will it only have an effect on the bank? Or will it have an effect on both of them? Okay, if we look in our debtors list, we will add up the debtors list and we will get a total of 5669. This amount should be 14765. Okay, and if I look at my debtors control, the balance is 5669, and the balance in the debtors list is also 5669. That indicates to me that we didn't make any mistakes here because they both agree. Then the balance that I calculate in my bank, I will show in my bank statement. Okay, so here is a debit balance in the bank. Now remember, the balance must go on the same side as what it appears in the ledger account. So we will indicate debit balance according to bank account. And my balance is 5669. If I take those figures and I subtract all the amounts, then it means that the total plus and minus the additional interest in the bank reconciliation will give me the same balance that I have in my bank account. So the balance was brought down on the debit side. So it means if I do it in two columns, I will show that the balance is on the debit side. And then when I add up, both totals will be 64012. Okay, now what's very important where you quite often make mistakes is because you concentrate on the fact that entries that appear in our books on the debit side of the bank will appear in their books on the credit side. And then you also want to swap around the balances. The balance must be exactly where it is. So if they have a credit balance on the bank statement, you will show it as a credit balance. If we have a debit balance in the bank account, you will show it as a debit balance. So the balance in your bank recon, in the bank statement, and in your books must be exactly where you have it. Then the additional entries that must still be recorded by the bank, those we have to show how it will be done by the bank. So the deposits in our books will be on the debit side, the bank will show it on the credit side, payments in our books will be on the credit side of the bank, and it will be on the debit side of the bank reconciliation. This is a difficult exercise because it includes the debtors control and debtors list reconciliation, the bank reconciliation, bank account, and the VAT. But if you must go and try this again, if you can get this question right when you do it on your own, it means that you really understand the work. So try this again. If you still don't get it right, look at the video again, ensure that you understand why you have to do the things, and then do it a third time until you really understand what you are doing. Good luck for the exams.